We're up to week 6. It's Thanksgiving week. Let's preview the week ahead and how we can navigate it. Michael Bolton, got some turkey?
Thanks, Josh. It's Michael Bolton here, and it's time for another episode of the Locked On Fantasy Basketball Podcast. Let's get to it.
Let's get to it, indeed.
You are Locked On Fantasy, your daily NBA fantasy podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello and welcome to the Locked On Fantasy Basketball Podcast, brought to you by Basketball Monster. My name is Josh Lloyd and I can't wait to head to day 3 of the first Ashes test after I record this. I'm also the lead fantasy analyst at basketballmonster.com, and today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you'll get $30 in bonus bets to use across the app. Head to fanduel.com to get started. Thank you also for making Locked On Fantasy Basketball your first listen every day. We are free, we are available on all platforms, and we are also part of the #1 sports podcast network, the Locked On Podcast Network. Hit the thumb and hit the subscribe because we want 100K. If you can get me there, I'd love it. All right, it is week 6, and that is what we are here talking about. We're here talking about the 6th week in the NBA schedule. It is Thanksgiving week, which is a time which I use as a marker, one of the first markers of the season, often for players who are rookies, who have found themselves into roles. We give them a bit of time. Jaeger Dioman, Ace Bailey, one of those guys. We go, oh, they're doing something. Like, we'll see. We'll get Jeremiah Fears. They're starting. The production's like, eh. And then when we get to Thanksgiving, I tend to make it an adjustment. Do we hold and see the improvement, or is it just sort of stagnant? And then we drop and cycle back in 2 months' time. That's how I like to use that Thanksgiving period. However you like to use it, up to you. Also, I know this will happen. Someone will wish me a happy Thanksgiving. Nothing to do with us. We don't celebrate Thanksgiving. It's not a thing here. It is very specific to one country this Thursday, which just happens to be the country that holds all of the relevant NBA teams. All right, let's talk about week 6. Let's talk about how it looks, how the schedule plays out. It is a lighter week than we've had over the past couple for a very specific reason. There are no games on Thanksgiving. We have 10 on Monday. We have 3 on Tuesday. We have 9 on Wednesday, which honestly, when I saw that, I fell to my knees in a Walmart parking lot because in previous years we've had 15 on the Wednesday, which of course is nonsense. It's ridiculous. It is insane. 9, beautiful. We have 0 on Thursday. We have 11 on Friday, which is okay. Again, sometimes you come out with a 15, 0, 14, so I love it. 11. And then 8 on Saturday, 8 on Sunday. So we've got 6 playable days this week. 6 playable days of action for this upcoming week, which is the stock standard way that the NBA runs Thanksgiving week. How does it look in terms of games played split throughout the teams? Well, we have another 2 teams this week that played 2 games. And they're both a little mystical, aren't they? The old Washington Wizards and my Orlando Magic. They got 2 games this week. There are 10 teams that play 4. Detroit, Indiana, Memphis, Milwaukee, Minnesota, New Orleans, New York, Phoenix, Sacramento, and Toronto play 4 games. The remaining 18 teams, who I'm not going to name, play 3 games. So if you have players that play 2 games this week, it's not quite as bad for a very specific reason, because when the majority of teams play 3 games, the difference between 3 and 2 is not as large as the difference between 2 and 4. If the majority of teams were playing 4 games and you had a 2-game week, it's obviously more impactful. Now, what it means is the teams that play 4 games, those 10 teams that I mentioned, they have a larger advantage because they're in the minority of playing those 4 games. So there's advantages in looking at players on the waiver wire from those 10 teams: Detroit, Indiana, Memphis, Milwaukee, Minnesota, New Orleans, New York, Phoenix, Sacramento, and Toronto. That is an advantage. Now, I've been doing these weekly preview shows for a while. I've had a relatively similar structure all the way through. Someone left a comment last week, and sometimes I love when you guys leave comments, obviously, and I try to read, and I do read all of them as much as I can, and I respond to what I can, but some of them stick, some of them stay in their head. And someone said, Josh, it's obviously a lot of work to put up these shows of these schedule quirks and 4 games in 6 nights and stuff, but is there really any relevance to it? How does it impact anything that you do? And I sat there and thought about it and go, you're right, it doesn't. There's no point in really talking about that. That stuff can be easily gleaned by looking at a schedule grid. And in the end, I don't think it does that much because When we have situations where there are gaps in games, we talk about them as they're happening. When we talk about situations where there are overloaded parts of schedules, we talk about them as they're happening. If I talk about it on Sunday, you're not going to remember that on Saturday, the week after. That's what we have the daily preview waiver shows to talk about, is like when something is weirdly happening positively or badly in schedule stuff for teams. Listing through all of the different back-to-backs and when they play is probably not relevant. What is relevant is talking about which players could miss games during the week for back-to-backs, but also how do we use the schedule to maximize what we're doing during this week, rather than providing just lists and lists of things, which again, I actually tend to, I've done it so robotically for years, but providing those lists where I don't think it does anything. Like, what's the point of me just keep going through and saying, here are all the teams that play 4 games in 6 nights? Like, I think that there's a lack of relevance to that, even though it does cover a lot of stuff. I'm not sure it's useful for your time or for my time. So I'm going to try the show today and not do that. We'll introduce some other little parts and pieces to the show and focus more on plans versus that sort of rawness of data. So I hope that, and I know that people will complain about it, but I hope that we start to streamline and make things more, make sense and more actionable. So let's get ready. Put on your wet gear, ponchos, raincoats, gumboots, wellies you may call them. I don't know. Because we're getting wet. We're going on the stream zone. Let's look at the quality games for the week. Using the way that I determine what a quality game is, here is the question that will get asked at every show. What is a quality game? A quality game is a game that a team plays on a day in the NBA where it is not overloaded. Where if you added a player off the waiver wire, you could start them in your active lineup. Where you don't have to make a decision on who to start or sit. That is a quality game day. And through years and years, and then last season, a lot of in-depth calculations, I found that if there are 11 games on a day, the likelihood of you having an open roster spot is not that high. If there are 10 or fewer games on, then the likelihood that you don't have to make a start-sit decision or that you can add someone and start them is pretty high. So that is the number that we use. 10 or fewer, quality game day. 11 or more, not quality game day. So this week, out of the 7 days, out of the 6 active days, we have 5 quality game days. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. Thursday's got 0. Friday's got 11, so we don't use Friday as a streaming day. And then we've got the weekend, Saturday, Sunday, back to back. Okay. We know there are 10 teams that play 4 games. And we talk about how not all schedules are built the same. Minnesota, New Orleans, and Toronto are 3 of the 10 teams that play 4 games. But all 4 of their games are on the lower volume days, meaning they do not play on Friday. So you get a little bit more value out of fringe guys here. Now, you might consider Jeremiah Fears a fringe guy for the Pelicans. Fair enough. You might consider Herb Jones a fringe player. Fair enough. Toronto doesn't really have fringe guys like that, although Mama Kalishvili went off in the last game. Unless you want Dick, maybe he's a deeper league option. Minnesota also not really much in terms of those guys. Like Nazari doesn't really qualify for that, but they are the 3 teams with 4 quality games. Both of the 2-game teams, the Orlando Magic and the Washington Wizards, both play on Friday. So they've only got 1 streamable game for the week. So where this is important is you are considering Tristan Da Silva. Tristan Da Silva. You've got Mr. Black. You've got Chris Middleton. You've got Bubbles Carrington. You might be cracking on with Trey Johnson. You might be, I don't know. You might even consider Bilal Coulibaly in a shallow league, someone that you want to roster, but you might use him once this week. Once. Have a look at that Friday. Will you start Da Silva, Black, Coulibaly, Middleton? And if not, then you're using them once for the week, and it is a waste. So that is where we're at with that. We're going to come back with the full stream plan for the week, which enables me to play the stream zone sound again. Before we do that, though, today's episode is brought to you by Gusto. No one starts a business for the joy of calculating tax withholdings or managing payroll well, speak for yourself. Managing payroll spreadsheets. That's where Gusto comes in. It takes the stress out of payroll, benefits, and HR so that you can focus on running your business and supporting your team. Gusto is the all-in-one remote-friendly payroll and HR platform that makes managing your team simple, transparent, and fast. Whether you're hiring, onboarding, or paying employees, Gusto helps you do it all from one place without the hassle or the hidden fees. You can do unlimited payroll runs for one monthly price, which means no surprise charges at the end of the month, and Gusto's automated tools like offer letters, onboarding materials, and direct deposits, it can save you hours every week. Try Gusto today at gusto.com/LockedOnNBA and get 3 months free when you run your first payroll. That is right, 3 months of free payroll at gusto.com/LockedOnNBA. One more time, that's gusto.com/LockedOnNBA. Today's episode is also brought to you by Waiver, and we are here 7 days to go, less, until Thanksgiving. And that means it's time to get your home ready. More seating for guests, new linens, new towels, new servingware, new plates, new trays, new forks, new knives, new sporks, whatever it is. You can get all that stuff at Wayfair, and you don't have to wait for Thanksgiving to get their Black Friday sale, because the Black Friday deals at Wayfair are happening all month long, up to 70% off everything from sofas through to spatulas. Everything gets shipped extremely fast as well, which you can get hopefully in time for the holidays. With big items and your chairs or tables or something small like, again, a fork, you can get that stuff delivered from Wayfair, and their delivery is free. Don't miss out on early Black Friday deals. Head to wayfair.com now to shop Wayfair's Black Friday sale up to 70% off. That is wayfair.com. The sale ends on December 7th. Yeah. All right, we're looking at week 6, Thanksgiving week here in the NBA, and we're talking about streaming. We're talking about how we can make the most of the week and the way the schedule presents to us. Again, all of these things have individual little quirks that you can that you need to pay attention to. What's your team? Are you super strong? Are you doing more stash work? Are you in a spot where you're going, it's getting a little desperate here, and I've got a few injuries, and I really need to start pumping some games in? All right, all of that is going to depend how you use your moves for the week. You might have a weird league setup where you have one move for the week, or you have 30 moves for a season. Again, both horrendously bad settings. Horrendously bad. And if you are the commissioner and you set those up, shame and fix it. You might have a million moves. You might have unlimited moves, but a games cap. And all that stuff it changes the way that you approach things strategically. What I'm going to cover here are the two major default ways of doing it. Yahoo defaults to 4 moves per week. ESPN, now I'll have to check this, but I'm pretty sure, but ESPN, I know this part, they default to 7 per week. But in the past, when there has been a 0 game day on, they actually take it down to 6. So be aware of that. You go and have a look at next week. In the past, ESPN has had that default, basically, of 1 waiver move per game day. And with Thursday being a non-game day, you might only have 6 for next week. Double check that, please. Because I can't check it. Obviously, I'm not in any ESPN leagues, and the week hasn't started for next week, so I can't check that at this point. But I'm almost certain that could happen. That's really non-committal, is it? All right, so if we've got 4 moves for the week, that is the standard Yahoo. Again, I have a lot of problems, a lot of issues with the standard defaults that Yahoo puts out, and I think it creates a lot of problems that are the most simple fixes of all time to make fantasy basketball better and more enjoyable, but that's a separate topic for the offseason. There are no back-to-backs between Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. Even Saturday and Friday, even, obviously, as well, because we don't have games on Thursday. So normally what we do with 4 moves during the week is we try and hit back-to-backs to get extra games in. Doesn't exist. We don't have it. The only back-to-backs that exist are Friday to Saturday, and Friday has 11 games on. Meaning, for a lot of you, even if you added someone from a Friday, Saturday back-to-back, you'd only use them Saturday, so it's not a back-to-back. You're not getting the benefit of it. And then we've got the Saturday, Sunday back-to-back. You still have an ability, though, to turn a player, a fringe player from the Magic, Tristan da Silva, Anthony Black, not Suggs, not Wagner, not Carter even at this point, a fringe player from the Wizards. You can turn their one game, because guys, you wouldn't start on a Friday. You can turn that player into 5 games of action, which I'm sure you're aware is a lot more. And it doesn't really matter who that player is. Now, again, if you're saying I'm in a shallow league and Wendell Carter Jr. is not up to it, like 5 times in his production this week is probably worth dropping in certain scenarios, because that is a huge advantage to you. So you can turn 1 into 5. The way to do it is you just got to do single streams. Grab someone on Monday, drop him, grab someone on Tuesday, drop him, grab someone on Wednesday. All right? Thursday's got 0. Friday's got 11. We should be fully stacked on Friday. And then we hit the weekend back-to-back, where it's Boston, Minnesota, New Orleans, and Toronto playing that weekend back-to-back. That's the only 4 teams. So you get 2 games for the price of 1 ad. But you've turned 1 quality game, or it might be a 3-game team who only plays 2 quality games that you can drop, and you can turn 2 games into 5. Still a pretty sizable change. But that's the way to do it. Because you can't hit back-to-backs early. Now, you could say, well, I'll get someone who plays Monday and Wednesday. That's cool. You're still leaving Tuesday open and on the table, and it doesn't benefit you. You won't come out with as many games played. You get Monday and Wednesday, and you'll get Saturday and Sunday. You can't do any more than that. So this plan of doing it makes you hit every streamable day. 5 games, 5 days. You literally can't get any more. If you are in an ESPN default format, where the default is 7 moves, you can use 2 slots to stream, and usually that is the better outcome, especially when you get further into the season. You've got to use 2 slots because you want to really max out games. Now, again, if you do have 7 moves available, you can turn 2 quality games, Black and De Silva, Black and Middleton, De Silva and Koulibaly, Black and Carrington, whoever. You can turn those guys into 9 games. If you have 6 moves, it does get a little different. And with 6 moves, you can turn it into 8 games. How do you do it? Well, with one of the slots, you single stream it Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and then you do the weekend back-to-back. So the same as doing it for the 4 moves. That's 4 moves, 5 games. With the other slot, you've got 3 moves left. So you look for a team that plays twice between Monday and Wednesday. Either Monday, Tuesday. You look for a team that plays Monday, Wednesday. That's the only combination. You look for a team that plays Monday, Wednesday. And then you look for a team that plays on the weekend back-to-back. Now, if you've only got 6 moves, what you're going to do is hit 2 players that play Monday, Wednesday. Yeah, that's right. Is it? Let me double check that. 1 sec. No, I was actually getting myself confused. The schedule there with these 6 or 7 moves is the same. 6, 7. It's the same. Because the only way you can do it, right? So you use 1 slot and go Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and then weekend back-to-back, Saturday, Sunday. That's 4 moves. You've got 3 left. So one of those will be used on a Saturday, Sunday back-to-back. It means you've got 2 moves left. The only way that you can only do, so if you've got 2 moves or 1 move, the outcome for that final slot between Monday and Wednesday is the same. You can only get 2 games out of it. You can get 2 games with 1 move by hitting a Monday-Wednesday combo, or you can get 2 games with 2 moves by hitting a Monday and then a different Tuesday, or you can do a Tuesday and a Wednesday. So it's the same. With 6 moves, or with 7 moves, you can turn those 2 slots into 9 games. And if you ever doubt the power of streaming, if your opponent doesn't do it, well, you've just gotten 7 extra games over them. Or you might not have 7 over them, but you might have gotten hit by an injury, and now you've evened it up by adding 7 games to your games played ledger. And that is, it's not a hidden thing, but not everyone does it. And if also, hey, this is one we call our commissioners. By the way, speaking of commissioners, Sleeper, the app sucks. Don't play on Sleeper. Sleeper app, terrible. Commissioners. I've heard of commissioners saying, oh, it's not fair. We don't want you in the league anymore because you've been streaming, and that's just not the spirit of the game. Spirit of the game, have rules then. Put limits on who you can add. Put games caps on. Don't be a bitch. If it's in the rules, and it is, and you're not doing it, that's your problem. Not the person who is taking advantage of the easy mathematical way to win. Or to be more competitive. Now, if everyone is doing it, and you're not, then you're going to lose. If you're streaming and everyone else is doing it, doesn't mean you're going to win. But if you don't do it, you're going to lose. Simple as that. That is how I believe that stuff goes. All right, we'll come back and we'll talk more now about players that could be returning from injury this week, as well as a little bit of stuff on weekly league ads. Today's episode, though, is brought to you by FanDuel. There's no better place to get in on the action with the NBA back than with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Even if you miss the start of a game, or you want to jump in and ride the hot hand, well, FanDuel has live bets on everything who will score next to fourth quarter comebacks. You might want to say, hey, can Jim Harden drop us another 50? Well, we saw that today, and maybe you can do that the next time the Clippers are playing and see him get red hot in the first half. You can even combine your live bets into a same game parlay for a shot at a bigger payout. It puts your knowledge to the test. It keeps you locked in on what's going on in the NBA. Right now, FanDuel is giving new customers $300 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. So go to FanDuel.com to sign up and play your game with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA, and don't forget to gamble responsibly. Okay, so now what we're going to do is talk about injuries. Now, people have asked this question as well, because in the past I would do a show once per week where I'd go through every team and talk about every player on the injury list and suggest when they might come back. But I'm not doing that this season. I've said that before. Why? Is that those shows become out of date immediately. They take a lot of work, and I'm not actually sure, outside, because again, you could just go and look at an injury report. You can just go look at a list and the stuff's there. Right? It's not that hard to do that. So what we do is we talk about the injuries every day in the recap, every day in the preview. And what we're going to talk about now is for week 6, some players that might have an opportunity to come back during this week. So who can we potentially expect to have back on the court this week? Well, let's go through a list of names. Oh, actually, my bad. As I give you that whole spiel and forgot to tell you about this part. New format. Got it wrong. What we're doing now is something what I'm calling the back-to-back watch. So, which players this week, when you look at their team schedule and their total games, which players are at risk of playing one fewer game? So on Friday, Saturday, there's a lot of teams playing a back-to-back. So we are very cautious about LaMelo Ball. Don't think he's going to play on both those games. So one fewer game for Ball. Kobe White, we have to be careful of. Coming back from the calf injury. Now, he might play on the back-to-back. I don't know. Derek Lively, I'd suggest that he probably doesn't play on the back-to-back for Dallas. We might have Anthony Davis returning, but also if we do, he won't play both games of that back-to-back. Jaden Ivey should be back, but that also means on a Friday, Saturday back-to-back, he's probably not out there playing. There's a couple more for Friday, Saturday as well. Kawhi Leonard is returning. He's coming back Sunday, but he's not playing Friday, Saturday. I'm very certain of that on the back-to-back. And then there is Mark Williams, who is almost certainly, again, not playing in one of those 2 games. And then for the weekend back-to-back, which we've talked about so much as being a key sort of pivot on the streaming plan, the only guy at the moment that really stands out as a games missed guy is Zion Williamson, because it's a Pelicans back-to-back, and you expect Fears and Queen and Bay and Murphy and Jones and Misi, those guys, like, you expect that they're going to play, and Zion will not in both of those games. So that's our back-to-back watch. Now, after all that fanfare about the injury updates and guys that we might get back this week, now let's actually do it. Who could be returning this week? Grayson Allen. Jaren Jackson, I think he missed the last game. He's likely back this week. Tyler Hero is allegedly targeting Monday to return. Now, Andrew Wiggins is currently out for them, so I don't know what's happening there, but Hero is targeting a return. I think we have a chance that the Bronco Jalen Williams returns. And I believe, I'd have to go back and check the tape, and I don't want to, but I'd have to go back and check it. I believe that when we talked about him in the preseason in mock drafts, I said to you, there is much more chance that he is back in the second half of November than he is ready for opening night. And I'd be targeting 15th to 20th of November was my original, I believe, sort of time frame for Williams. And we've passed that, obviously. But this is sort of where I think he's back. So I think Jalen Williams has a shot at coming back. We should be getting the thick hogsman Tobias Harris back. In fact, we might get him back this weekend. But I'm pretty certain that he'll be back and available during week 6. Who else could be returning? Joel Embiid, maybe? He's been listed doubtful instead of out in some of these games, so you'd think a return from him could be coming this week. Jordan Poole, we might get him back towards the end of the week, and he would be one if he does return on that weekend back-to-back for the Pelicans and probably doesn't play both games. Jaden Ivey is almost certainly coming back, because I believe he's coming back this weekend. Kawhi Leonard also back. He's returning on Sunday. Shaedon Sharp's got a calf strain. Maybe he returns. Drew Holiday, by the way, will not be back this week. I'm certain of that. Holiday could come back towards the middle or end of the week. But we have no confirmation explicitly on that. And we also could get a return, and these are coulds. Paolo Banchero and Dylan Harper. Dylan Harper, I would say it's a 20% chance. Paolo, I'd give it a 50% chance. But I think they're both in play for the end of the week. Now, remember, the Magic only played twice this week. So even if Paolo returns, you might only get one out of him. Harper, I would say it probably pushes next week, but it's on the cards. And the other one is John Kuminga, who got benched in that game and then had knee soreness, and we haven't seen him since. And now there's reports that he's feeling unfairly blamed and scapegoated, bro. Can they just hurry up and trade this guy? Anyway, Kuminga might be back this week. Not that it should matter for most of you. In any standard 150 deep player leagues, you don't need to be rostering him, but he could be returning this week. Now, what we can do is look at weekly leagues. Again, do I need to give the caveat? I don't think so. I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to tell you what a weekly league is. You should know. Who are guys that are available on waiver wires that we could add and likely start this week? Jay Huff. I should have just grouped it together. Jay Huff and Isaiah Jackson. I don't feel good about it. I don't feel comfortable with it. I don't feel confident with it. But as one of only 10 teams, the Pacers, playing 4 games this week, with both of them having an ability to play 20 minutes, you are given a buffer. And we've talked about this a little bit over the last week or so, is that little bit of a buffer. You're unsure about something, but the schedule makes sense for them, that they get the 3-game in 5-game chunk, and maybe they're going to be bad. Oh, we've got a buffer. Because if they're not that good, they're still playing 50% more games than other players. And this is not 50%, it's 33% more, but it's still something. Now, Huff has had big minutes the last 2 games. I don't trust it, though. Jackson's been bad, but he was good 3 games ago. But you got a buffer. They got 4 games. Bob Portis, easy one. No Giannis, good volume games. We're in. As much as we don't like Bobby and we're not holding him long term, and his production is not that good, you got a buffer. I don't expect that Morant returns this week. I don't expect that Wemby returns this week. Hence, I didn't have them on the list. So Vince Williams should be just full speed ahead. We should be getting good stuff out of Williams and big assist numbers. And he is an add and a start. And Colin Gillespie. Now, when Grayson Allen returns, I believe that Gillespie goes back to a fringe player. But when we've seen this is almost one of the most clear-cut scenarios we've seen all season. When 2 players are out, Allen and Green at the moment, and before it was Green and Brooks, Gillespie is definitely a 12-team league player. When 1 is out, he isn't. But at the moment, Allen is out. Now, the value here is, again, this might sound contradictory, because I said Grayson Allen could come back this week, and probably does. But you got a buffer. You got the buffer. And the buffer means that, if Allen misses 1 game, that's a really good Gillespie opportunity. And in the other 3, he might play 21 minutes. But you get 21 minutes, let's make that 65 in total, and then add 30 on, you get 95 minutes, make it 100. 100 minutes for the week. To get that out of a 3-game player, they need to average 33 minutes. And how many 33-minute players are just sitting on the waiver wire? They're not. So you got a buffer. Even if Grayson does return, you should get enough out of Gillespie this week. And every game that Allen misses, Gillespie's value rises during the week. So that's what we talk about with the buffer and using the really basic mathematical principles of 4 is greater than 3 to get us to that result. If you are in a weekly league and you're deciding, what do I do with my Magics? What do I do with my Wizards? Do I start any of them? And if I'm in a standard format, I don't. I don't start Desmond Bain, Jalen Suggs, Wendell Carter, Franz Wagner. I don't start any of those guys. I don't start Alex Sarr. I don't start Bilal or Keyshawn George. I don't start them. I don't start any Wizards player or Magic player. Now, if I go to a league that's 180 deep, 175 deep, a 14-team standard, I would start Franz, I would start Sarr, and I might start Keyshawn. Maybe. But that's it. 12s, 10s, no one. No 2-game player gets a start this week. And guys, that's a weekly preview. So, go. Tell me about how bad and how much you hate the format and you want 3 games in 4 nights back and 4 games in 6 nights back and 5 games in 8 nights back, and you want me to list all the back-to-backs. I sat and ruminated on this all week about the utility of this show and ways to make it more useful. And I do think, and I will be persisting with this for a little bit anyway, I do think that this is better and more useful. But I'm sure that you will have thoughts on it, so drop them down below. But more importantly, while you're doing that, just hit subscribe and get us out to 100K. Guys, we are done here. Thank you so much for listening, everyone. See ya.